All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to Mayor Emanuel for putting this panel together of very distinguished guests. My name is Tanya Trish. I am Vice President and General Counsel with the Illinois Retail Merchants Association. We're an association that represents retailers all throughout the state, large, small, and everything in between, all categories. And I will be the moderator today for this panel. This panel is basically here filled with small business owners, aldermen, the mayor, and association representatives, people who represent small businesses. And we're here really to just have a discussion amongst ourselves, and hopefully it'll be informative for you and helpful.
We invited a few guests, but yeah.
Pretty much.
Right.
And to talk about, what it's like to be a business owner in the city of Chicago, what it's like to open your business, what it's like to run it, how you interact with the city, how you interact with the financial industry. Everything that has to do with running a business and being successful, and hopefully staying open a very, very long time. And so hopefully the information that we'll gather here will be helpful to the mayor and his team as they go back to City Hall and discuss how to make sure that we have a vibrant small business environment that keeps entrepreneurs ready to employ people in the city of Chicago. With that being said, I think it's probably best to go around the table and introduce everyone. So if everyone can just sort of tell me who they are, the name of their business or association, who they're representing, and how long you've been in business and what type of business it is. And we can start with, on my left, with Alderman Burnett.
Yeah, what is your business?
My name is Walter Burnett. I'm the alderman of the 27th Ward. I've been an alderman for 18 years, going on 19. We've been able to turn over a lot of communities, the Near North Side, the West Loop area, help this community, and and help a lot of new businesses come to our community. We have one of the strongest PMD areas in the city of Chicago. We also represent now the Goose Island community, which initially, having the blessing to be an alderman for so long, I was the alderman there before, then it got remapped out, now I have it back. But we were able to help build that area up, boost up the TIFs, inject a lot of public money to attract a lot of businesses to our community, and try and make ourselves accessible to the businesses so that their navigation through the city's process is a lot easier. So.
Thanks, Alderman. Carmen?
My name is Carmen Maldonado. I am CEO of La Criolla Food Products. Criolla means Creole, just so you know. The business was established in 1957. Still, today it's all women-owned. And we manufacture and import over 200 grocery items, and we sell them to different retail outlets. Our latest acquisition being Mariano's. And actually, I was instrumental in getting that account by submitting a video that the city had done. And Ms. Nava is here. I think she's the one that that put it together and made it accessible. So we're sending that out all over the place. And I think that's making me a more valuable company to people that are looking for, minority women, established businesses. And, we're going through growing pains right now. So I think that anything that the city could do to partner with us, and also corporations, is welcome.
Thanks, Carmen.
Hi, I am Stephanie Neely, Treasurer of the City of Chicago. I am in my second term as Treasurer. I'm a native of Chicago, grew up on the South Side, and my family had neighborhood gas stations. I remember vividly my father coming home with grease and dirt underneath his nails because of all the hard work it took to be a small business owner. So in addition to managing the city's cash flow, I also help small business owners. We just had our 12th annual Small Business Expo. We had about 4,000 people there last Friday at the UIC Forum. We do all kinds of contests, teaching people how to write business plans, how to navigate social media, how to do an elevator pitch. Just in case you're in the elevator with Bill Gates, you can convince him to give you some money. I'm really happy to help the small business community, and it's just an exciting time. Chicago has a lot of nicknames, but we are truly a city of neighborhoods and small business owners, and anything my office can do to help, we're trying to do it.
My name is Omar Duque. I am the President and CEO of the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We're a statewide organization based here in Chicago, located in the West Loop. We represent the interests of Hispanic-owned businesses throughout the state. We believe there's more than 72,000 Hispanic-owned businesses in Illinois, the majority of those being in Chicago and in the surrounding communities. We are a direct technical assistance organization, so we also operate a small business development center and work one-on-one with business owners to help them in every phase of their business, but specifically working right now on growth phases, because we think that that's where there's the biggest need. And then also personally, I don't talk about this much, but my parents were business owners for a very short window of time in the 1980s, and they failed miserably at it. They failed miserably, and I think that that's one of the.
You don't have to be that harsh on your parents.
No, but that's.
I'm joking.
try.
But that's one of the things. It's not a bad thing. I don't think that we should be afraid of failure in business, because I think there's a lot that we can learn from it. And I know that experience drives what I do personally, and why I have so much passion in working with businesses to help them succeed.
My name is Tom Simmons. I'm the owner of Midwest Performance Cars. We are an auto repair shop specializing in European cars. We're located at Lake and Ogden here in the West Loop. I've been in business for 10 years.
It was part of our licensing reforms.
I was part
Yes.
of licensing reforms.
Yes.
Oh, my name is May Whiteside. I'm the proud owner of Cherry K. Lewis Engineers. I am a 14-year transportation professional. I am a licensed professional engineer. Cherry K. Lewis Engineers has been in business for 3 years. We prepare contract plans as well as construction inspection. I'm located in Roseland Heights, which you all know is in the far south side community, which my business will help to stabilize by local employment and also material purchases in the area. I'm also a member of Chatham Business Association, where I got a lot of help from Melinda Kelly, and as well as the micro lending program, which helped stabilize my business, which is an awesome program, and I thank you for that. And our community thanks you for that. And also, one of the first opportunities to get in business was through HDR Engineering, who allowed me to get my first opportunity with US 41 project, which is close to being finished. And so that is my story.
And sticking to it.
Sticking to it.
Steve?
Good morning. My name is Steve DeBretto. I'm the director of the Industrial Council of Near West Chicago, which is where we are today. We're the largest business incubator in the country. We have 110 small businesses that rent from us and take advantage of our business advisory and education services. We also advocate for infrastructure improvements, policy, zoning, and other things that make this a good neighborhood to do business. So on behalf of the Industrial Council, welcome, and I appreciate you choosing this as the venue for what I think is going to be a very good conversation this morning.
Good morning. I'm Zulie Turner, and I'm an owner of 2 businesses in the Chatham community, Flex Coffee Shop and also Young Achievers Academy. Both businesses have greatly benefited from programs that the city has produced. One of them is Ready to Learn. Our preschool is a recipient of that grant because of the great high quality learning that we produce, learning standards that we adhere to at the school. Flex Cafe has been around since Father's Day. The preschool has been around for 7 years. I think that the city is
They
doing...
don't let the kids drink the coffee,
No,
so I just
no.
want you to know that.
No.
Been there.
I reward them with mango smoothies. That is my new reward system. But we've benefited from a lot of city programs. I think that the city has a lot of good things going for it. Some areas that need to be improved, but I think that the good things definitely outweigh the bad.
Okay, my name is Tegestranda. My husband Germayan own a restaurant, an Ethiopian restaurant on Broadway and Lawrence, right across from Greenmill. We got loans, 4 loans from AXIAN to do SPIF grants. So because of it, I think our business sales went up like about 200,000 more a year. So I'm hoping to open up another restaurant in a couple of years using another SCORE program, the 504 loan.
maybe you can network and go to my community. Or Alderman Burnett. Good morning. Tom Tunney, Alderman of the 44th Ward, Chairman of Economic Development, small business owner for now 34 years, and Alderman for approximately 11. We have 4 restaurants on the north side and about 100 employees. And I got involved with politics because of the need for a small business voice to be in the city council and the day in and day out trials and tribulations of navigating and meeting payroll every 2 weeks. Pretty outspoken. I think my colleagues know exactly where I'm coming from when it comes to small business and how we can make this city more competitive, more easier to do business with, and less taxing. And that doesn't necessarily mean dollars and cents. It just means time is money also, and how we can work more efficiently and provide services for our businesses and make them grow, retain jobs, and stay in the city. It's been a pleasure to serve what recently Money Magazine called basically the #1 neighborhood in the Midwest. So it's very it's very, it's very, very rewarding. It's a lot of work, but you know, when we started in 1979, when I first came to Belmont, it was empty storefronts, no Chamber of Commerce, no SSA. It was a real exhilarating time for me and our community, and I think a lot of neighborhoods would like to have the problems of Lakeview. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all today.
Well, thank you so much. As you all can tell, we've got a really diverse panel with how the number of years that they've been in business, some very new, some have been around for a while. And so I think we'll have a really good discussion about what it's like to own a business in the city of Chicago. I just wanted to list a couple of things that the mayor's office, a couple of programs that the mayor's office has done in the few years that he's been mayor, and that the city council has also done a yeoman's job in getting done for business as well. It's license consolidation, restaurant inspections in the startup program, microloans we've heard mentioned. We now have a small business center at the on the 8th floor of City Hall. There's the elimination of the head tax for growing businesses, and neighborhood small business growth strategy through the local chambers. And so I hope that through the conversation today we'll get through to some of those initiatives and how they're working today. So I figure we just dive right in. And I'd like to just ask, maybe Carmen, we can start with you. I'd like to hear from the business owners about how you went from idea to actually owning your business. And what I mean by that is, you know, how you found resources, where you looked, what you knew about, and then what you eventually found out about later. And how did the city interact with you when you think about what it was like starting up those many years ago and how you interact with the city today?
Do you have 2 hours? Well, I didn't really start the business. I come from the medical field. I'm an RN. I kind of married into the business. My husband tragically passed away in 1992. I became CEO, had 3 children, and had to take the bull by the horn and did it. As far as my husband starting and his family way back in the 50s, the trunk was the car, you know, the trunk of his car was the first warehouse. So you can see he started very small. Challenges and struggles were many. And as I took over in 1992, I made those changes in the company that I thought needed changing. And as a woman, I try to do everything, or I try to do everything myself. I'm a terrible delegator. Doing the 10,000 small business program really reset the button for me in terms of waking me up to the value of my company and what I have to offer.
Can you tell us a little bit about that initiative and what it did for you?
Well, it's basically like a tiny master's program, very condensed into very practical tools that they give you. It made me like look into my, let's say, legacy. What do I want to do with the business? And I may add that my daughter, who introduced me to the program, she lived in New York at the time, and said, "Mom, you got to take this program." And I had been trying to convince her to join the business. After I took the business, she joined the business. She worked for corporate America. She was a great producer, TV producer, and came to work with me. I think she saw the change in me. So that's what Goldman Sachs does to an established business like me. It resets that reset button. And to, of course, the startups, it's like invaluable.
Have you seen growth in the company post that
Oh,
program?
my God, yes. Like 35%. I've hired 4 people. And growing pains are difficult, though. I have to look at equipment, at vehicles, at my manufacturing end. We're updating all our hardware, software. We're relaunching our brand, relaunching our website. It's like it's like starting a new business, basically. And the brand was there, the product was there, and the business is there. I mean, it just takes work. And I think when government and corporations work together, that's invaluable. And I think the corporations have to be held a little bit responsible. I mean, what I find, I'm dealing with big box stores, and not Target yet. But,
You made that known.
Yeah. But they have diversity departments that are wonderful. But sometimes I find they're gatekeepers, and that's where Omar comes in. Omar is, you've been very helpful, and I'm going to tap into your resources more, I should. But that's where I'm running into, like the corporate sector has to be more cognizant of what they say and actually put it to work.
I'm going to pick up on some of the things that you said, because I like the idea of thinking of sort of taking another look at your business and how you can redefine yourself as you grow. Let's sort of pivot back to someone who's recently opened their business. So, Zuli, you recently opened the coffee shop.
Yes.
After already having a business for some years.
Yes.
Can you tell me what the difference was like between when you opened the daycare and preschool, I'm sorry, and then when you opened the coffee shop? I know they're very different businesses, but your interaction with the city and getting those businesses open.
The big difference was it was a lot more expensive to get the coffee shop up and running. Both of my experiences and interactions with city personnel, though, with both businesses were very positive. The Department of Business Affairs, everybody who I encountered, lovely people. I felt like people were jumping through hoops for me. So I was very pleased and happy and grateful for that. The one thing that I could change about my experience with the coffee shop is having to physically go downtown to change any little thing about my permit. That was pretty time consuming because you have contractors who are in your space, you don't want to leave them alone, or you may have an appointment, you want to change just a name. Why can't we scan it and get it to you? I love the fact that you can let them know by pinging them online that you're ready for inspection, but if we could just not have to leave every single time we want to go change something, and even print our business license.
When you said that it's more expensive, what cost are you talking about?
Oh, well, when our architect drew up a plan, and his idea was to tap into the existing plumbing, but once we dug it up, you thought you were, I don't know, in ancient Mayan times when, plumbing first came to be. So we had to really excavate everything and put in a new plumbing system.
Places in the city.
Yeah, so horrible. So that was the expense. And thanks to the microloan program, who I was turned on to by Melinda Kelly, who's here in the Chatham Business Association, that really took us across the finish line, because without that, I don't know what we'd be doing. We were really, my mother and I said, we're just going to take our time, and that looked like to us years later, because we weren't willing to just give every dime we had. We had to support ourselves and support another business, and that microloan saved us.
So you had some startup money to get the business going,
Yes.
but then you ran into something unforeseen.
Yes.
And so how quick was the process of getting the microloan?
Well, the mayor knows I told him my story. I'm pretty persistent, and the Chatham Business Association was very responsive to my sense of urgency. So it was pretty quick. pretty organized. They gave me the list of materials that they needed. I gave it to them. They took it in front of the board. I got approved, and we had a check shortly thereafter. One of the things that I know that small businesses run into is lending. And I'm with a major bank, but not for long because we are working to pull our money out. We decided on a new bank, and I've been with them for over 2 decades.
This is, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but
Yeah.
I think this is an important point because, I mean, Stephanie and I and the alderman have worked on this. The micro-lending was, did obviously a world of good for the coffee shop, but here is a person with an operating business, but still the bank said no. And I think that's a testimony. I mean, the finances are a testimony to, even though they had an operating business, separate line of business. And I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but I think it's I mean, they were this close to on that dream of the coffee shop, just saying, forget about it. And it's a testament that without the micro lending, they would have said, forget about it.
Definitely.
So, I mean,
August, I see you shaking. I see you nodding your head in agreement.
Yeah, because I think, like, thankfully we've been 6 years in business, but before we open up, after we open up, lending been the hardest thing for us. Like getting financials. I think the only loan we got was from ICNC, and then another one was Soho. I did with ICNC 4 loans, but any other bank, when we had our business plan and we had equity in our house, we say we have this over 20%. Would you lend us? They say, restaurant under 2 years we cannot lend. They won't even look at it. So ICNC gave us a loan, and then we got another one. And then we did family, friend, and credit cards. yeah, and that's the only way we couldn't do it. And then the credit card was like a struggle. And then the economy went bad. And then, yeah.
what was your, you have the business, I mean, I think the alderman pointed something that I'm constantly harping on, because there's both the financing from the bank, but we got to be honest, time is money. And this gets to how much time with City Hall versus how much time with your customers.
Yeah.
So what's the experience with, because you're a restaurant, so you have more than the normal inspections, and you have more than the normal licensing. Where is it today for you? How's it, what's it been? Be raw, don't sugarcoat
I
it.
mean, it's not too bad considering the financing. We were even able to do our own liquor license. We went to the business affairs. They told us what we need to provide, so we didn't lower that. The inspection, we learn from it every time, so it's not too bad. So I don't have anything bad to say about it except the financing part. And I think my suggestion to the city will be to have maybe a little bit bigger loans. I mean, ICNC, they do give us loans and stuff. But
You mean the
doesn't-
cap on them?
Yeah.
I think my loan program goes up to $50,000 or $250,000. But what we've seen in the micro program that I have is that smaller amounts were what were really needed. And so we can go as low as $500 and as high as $250,000. But none of our loans are that much because it seems like it's a working capital need because you've got that little bump that you've got to get over.
Not only that, like we did, we were, I mean, lucky enough to get the SPIF program to get a construction, which was 100 something, and 30,000 supposed to come from us, and we had that money. But the rest was what we were having problem with because banks didn't see it as valid things. Having a SPIF, they're like, well, it can go bad and we'll never get our money back. So ICNC did again 2 loans for us, one for 20 something, one for 30. So that's how we closed the gap for us.
So one of the things that you brought up is that financing is obviously very difficult, whether you're just starting out or even trying to infuse a little bit more cash. But another thing you talked about was inspections and inspections for a restaurant. We know that there had been an initiative to sort of consolidate inspections and consolidate licensing. And I know, Tom, you had some interesting situations regarding inspections and licensing. So can you tell us a little bit about what your experience has been like?
Sure. And this was before the mayor and I did the press conference almost 2 years ago.
He's a licensing veteran.
Yeah, there was so I have 2 licenses for the motor vehicle repair. Basically there's 2 licenses you have to have a repair shop, but there was a 3rd license that was required to store tires. And I don't actually store tires as a profit. I used to store tires, and I do again, just as a service to my customers, because the European cars that I work on, most people have a summer set of tires and a winter set of tires. And I would just do it as a service, nothing I was making money on. And I never even knew until an inspector walked in one day that there was a license required. If you had more than 99 tires in the building, you had to have this separate license. I went to get the license, and that was going to require a whole new set of architectural drawings, all the inspections again. And since I wasn't making any money off of it, I just eliminated that part of my business. I offloaded them to actually an ICNC company that stores tires. And now with the license consolidation, I think when I go to renew next time, I only need one license instead of 3. And where for a while when the first time I got the ticket for having too many tires, then I would have somebody that would come in every 2 weeks to get me a new ticket. And then finally, it took me a while to get rid of 300 tires. And then, now I don't need that. And also now I don't have those people coming around it felt like they were just trying to write me new tickets. So that was a big improvement to me. And now when I go get my next license, I think it's going to cost about 1/3 as much because I need 1 instead of 3. So that's a big improvement.
Omar?
And I just want to echo that because we talk to our members all the time, and I think that there has been a cultural change in City Hall where I feel like people who work there in whatever department, there's more of a sense of service rather than, it's more how can I serve you rather than how can I catch you at something. And so I think that certainly is commendable. There's still challenges and there's still ways that you can improve the system. We've worked with your team to do the Quick Start restaurant startup guide. I think that was fantastic. Doing that in different languages, I think was a huge help. I think it's a lot easier to start a business in the city of Chicago today than it was years ago, where I think that there remain challenges is in growing. Capital is still a huge thing, and we hear it at all levels, at every single level, from the micro capital to sort of the capital community. We just don't have that ecosystems, and some people like Hyde Park Angels are doing a great job, but we need and I don't know how you do it from City Hall, and maybe there's a way to incentivize different lending communities to look at some of these businesses because there is tremendous potential for growth.
On one thing is, and this relates to what Tom and Omar just said, consolidating. We have the most business licenses. We have more business licenses on our books than LA, Phoenix, Philadelphia, and Atlanta combined. So we brought them down 60%. That actually has been an easier exercise in changing the culture. And I'm pleased, although we got to constantly stay on it, the culture where the mindset is you're a client, and I think I never thought of the way you just said it, which is we're not in the business trying to catch you. We're in the business trying to get your doors open, and we're good and bad at it, depending on who you get, and it's not not universally applied all the time. And go ahead. Sorry.
You stirred up something, Tom stirred up something in me. So you're getting tickets, you're doing the right thing, and I'm doing the right thing, and I'm sure you are too. But it's difficult because I'm located near and around people who are doing work. I know they don't have permits because they tell me. They're paying people $40 a day. They're selling illegal items. I'm paying out the wazoo for permits and construction and an architect. So I think there are some areas that still need to be the rules need to be heavily enforced, because how can a business who's doing the right thing, and it's costly to do the right thing, operate next to another business who is not and does not have a care in the world about trying to conform to the rules? So I know some neighborhoods are already beautified. And Tom, you've probably seen your neighborhood go from a 1 to a 10, and congratulations. But overall, Chatham is a beautiful neighborhood, but there are some pockets where businesses just aren't adhering to the rules. I would love to find out how we could create a chamber of commerce and have some uniform rules, windows. Some are just scary. You don't know what's going on behind, those windows. And recently, the police came by and pointed these things out to the businesses, but I haven't seen any follow through and any changes. Litter on the street. Are you not responsible for keeping, the area in front of your business clean? You're attracting a bad element, which therefore deters hardworking individuals who want to support the surrounding businesses from coming in. So I do think there needs to be something done about that. And it's not a citywide issue, but there's just pockets. And I don't think that it would be really expensive to come and enforce these rules and deter people, shake them up a little bit, that this is not going to be accepted anymore.
So you talked about that you're following the rules. How did you even know what the rules were and what to follow and when?
It's like Halloween.
Right.
Yeah.
My mother put the fear of God in me a long time ago, so I know I have to follow the rules. So anything that I attempt to do, my first thing is, what are the rules? How can I do this? I want to drive. How can I get a license? I want to open a restaurant. Mr. Nelson from the Department of Health, he gave me his cell number. I called so many times before we even found a space. What do I need to do? What can I make? What kind of oven can I have? I know the code probably better than most because he was willing to tell me all of the rules up front. If you do this, you have to do this. So I knew I seek out the rules. People are there to tell you what they are. It's in print. There's a nice booklet. If you want to open up a restaurant, this is what you need to do. There's so many resources. So
you feel
I just
like
tapped into the city and what was already there to find out what I needed to do, and it makes me upset when I see people who have zero regard for the rules and the laws. They're not rules, they're laws.
Tigas, I was going to ask you sort of a similar question. How did you know you opened up your business, 6 years ago? You're thinking about opening up an additional location. How do you know what you need and when you need it? Do you feel like when you go to the city, you're given a playbook?
Yeah, the business affair is really great. You make an appointment or you walk in for liquor license, they walk me through it. I think someone told me it might cost you like $6,000 through lawyer, but I was able to do it because they walk me through. Just saying like, here's what you need and stuff. And so I think what I would suggest is like, when you're thinking, especially when you try to open a restaurant, you just have an idea of the menu and stuff, but not what the licensing and stuff is needed. So, and like when you are educated person, I guess you make better decisions if you're, so, if it's health department or something, like there's a day or something where they will train you what's what. And I did that, the health something, but just walk you through the kitchen and stuff, that'll be great.
May, I wanted to bring you into it because your business is a little different from everyone else here. So tell me about how it was like starting up for you and the issues that you ran into and how the city really helped you grow your business.
Okay. Well, our licensing is somewhat different. We have to start with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation because we are a design and construction management firm. So we have to go to the board and we have to apply for our license, and then at some point we come to the city because we now operate within the city of Chicago because I'm located in Roseland Heights, and you all know far south side we're having some economic challenges. I found when I started my business, it was something I've always wanted to do, something I wanted to do since I was a teenager. But in my area where I grew up, I never saw construction. I never saw people working on roads or streets or installing sewer. That just didn't happen around CHA at the time that I had these ideas about a better community, a better country, a better anything with civil engineering. So my idea to start the business came in where I had opportunity after 14 years of being a practicing engineer to be able to start a business in my community and be able to hire for my community. But my problem was capital. If it wasn't for the microlending program, I know for a fact I'd be closed, like altogether. I wasn't able to make payroll. I had 2 contracts in hand. And I walked to bank. I was a part of this bank since I was 19 years old. I couldn't get a loan from them at all. They have multiple branches.
Did they tell you why they wouldn't lend to you?
Collateral.
A lot of banks will turn people down, and when I say to them,
Even
why are
with
you
the
being
contract,
turned down? They
I
don't know
had-
why.
I had 2 contracts in hand. One was a City of Chicago contract, and one was an Illinois tollway contract. And I was told, well, what do you have? Nothing, you know. What do you do? How long you been in business? I'd show them all these documents, it's my business plan, and I did all the right things. I went to college.
Money to invest as well?
I did. I saved money from when I was working, and I used all that money to create and build my own website to pay for the hosting. I did everything myself. I paid for the licenses. I paid for my City of Chicago license. I paid for the separate Minority Women City of Chicago license with that fee. You know, those were extra fees that, you know, I didn't expect to see as a MWE in town. But like I said, the microlending program is what kept my doors open. And with contracts in hand, I was turned down by every bank in this town.
Steve,
So that is what's needed.
The financing.
The financing. The
Yeah.
financing.
Steve, you said 110 businesses are hosted here
In this
at one given time.
Yep.
So what is the common thing you're seeing all the time? And they have obviously the infrastructure. You guys are set up to kind of get them through our maze or operation. So what's common that you see constantly from anyone?
So I think one of the most important things that this neighborhood provides is a sense of certainty that you can have a smokestack or a backup alarm at 3 o'clock in the morning and nobody's going to complain about it. So this is one of the first and probably best performing planned manufacturing districts in the city. And the Department of Housing and Economic Development recently took a look. You know, it's been nearly 20 years since PMD started, to say how are they performing all over. And I think some changes may be made in some of them. They went out of their way to say Kinsey is performing well and should stick around. But my biggest recommendation, this affects the businesses here and elsewhere in the neighborhood, is if changes need to be made anywhere to a PMD, it's important to simultaneously reinforce that PMDs that are not changing are valued and will stay. Because ours was implemented in 1998, and we still have speculators who are sitting on property saying, someday I'll sell it for condominium prices. And, you know, if changes are made to a PMD elsewhere in the city, they're going to sit back and say, see, I just need to wait a little bit longer. So it's important that we continue to send a message that this is a safe place to make capital investments and hire people, because you can continue to make things here.
I think what I was driving at is you've seen people kind of graduate out of here,
Right.
in the same way that May's in a different place today because of the micro. So when you're graduating, what do they confront going from kind of incubator to on their own too, and what would be easier giving? I assume you bring a lot of infrastructure to that process that other people, Zuli, Carmen and May don't have, or Tom. So what would that be?
When they're leaving an incubator, which is kind of a nurturing environment, it may be to
It's like
purchase.
college, don't write, don't bring your laundry back.
Something like that. We still have some machines in the back. But, you know, maybe to purchase property, which is a huge decision for any business owner. I mean, that's a big fixed expense for a long, long time. And they need to feel confident enough in their operations, their management, their finances to know that I'm going to be able to make this monthly fixed payment for a while, and that I want to stay in this neighborhood. So the kinds of 504 programs we talked about and some of the other real estate programs. So while they're with us, they need working capital, and they'll continue to need working capital later. But all of a sudden, when they're looking at a big, $500,000 or $1 million, purchase of real estate, that's when the numbers really start to make their eyes get big.
Do they complain about, or do they even know what the potential taxes would be on you got the capital cost, but you don't realize until 2 years later you get that first property tax bill. It may or may not have been part of a rent structure in your previous life, but we hear that a lot about how do we make our manufacturing industrial properties in our one-story commercial that is reasonably taxable. Does that come up a lot in your?
Absolutely, property taxes are huge. Nonprofits don't pay income taxes, but we do pay property taxes, and we pay a lot of property taxes on this. And we're also fortunate to be in I think the best funded industrial TIF district in the city. So that also raises questions of priorities for spending on infrastructure, job training, capital
Where are the
improvements.
6B programs we're doing with the county?
6B, enterprise zone sales tax. All that's very important, and it's important for businesses to know that they don't need to know the names of these programs or any of the acronyms. They just need to be able to come someplace that can say, yeah, I'll help you do that.
And where are the best places for businesses to go to get all that information?
You know, I think places like small business development centers, local industrial retention initiative, contractors, you know, we do all that here. And again, I don't need to teach them the names of all these programs. I just want them to know that you can call ICNC and we'll help you out with that.
Right. ICNC is a delegate agency with the city of Chicago. So.
That's great. And so, Carmen, you started sort of talking about that you've been in business for some time, and now you're sort of becoming new again, looking at yourself differently and see how you see the world. And so what are some of the challenges that you're facing now that you're sort of reinventing yourself with your business? Because you're making spices and...
Well, we have many. Specifically, we own the building free and clear in the West Loop. It's a very hot area. So I'm finding myself like between development, manufacturing, and this is where you come in. So what I think I need to understand is if we're going to coexist with what's going on in the West Loop, there has to be a lot of conversation. I don't want to leave Chicago. I don't want to leave the West Loop. As an established business, I think
I don't want you to leave.
No.
let me say that. We don't want you to leave.
What I need is like a consultation, and I'm going to reach out to you and to you, consultation, somebody to come in and tell me, okay, this is how you're manufacturing. You can go to this level and be more productive. Your processes have to change. Your systems have to change. And, you know, we need funding. And recently, Wintrust came to my office. They saw my business plan. They know who I am in the community. I'm very involved with the community. And they gave me a loan. Of course, you know, you got to pay it back. So you have to be very strategic in how you spend it. So I think that's where I'm lacking. I need some solid advice. And if there was somebody there that could mentor me, I mean, you know, Goldman Sachs did.
Program we brought in, it's called 10,000 Small Businesses, and they do kind of like a 6-week crash course for about 40, 50 small businesses, and we're on our 5th class already.
Yeah. It's wonderful, and I got an advisor while I was doing the class. She was instrumental in kind of waking me up to what the potential was. But then what? So, you know, I think the relationship with the new banker, because my old banker, that's another thing Goldman Sachs did. You have to reevaluate all your relationships with your accountant, with your banker. They're there to serve you. I often think I was there to serve them. I mean, it was kind of, so it's all those relationships in business that you have to evaluate. And I need help doing it, you know, and I'm going to reach out to you. My daughter is going to.
You know, I think, Carmen, when we were having this conversation earlier, and I think that there's a lot of great resources in the city of Chicago that really go untapped, right? So I think Steve, you know, runs a fantastic incubator here. I think we need more of this, but we need to make sure that more businesses are informed, right? So Melinda Kelly's here. They do some fantastic work. The resources are there, but you just need to make yourself available. And everything that we do free of charge. I know through the SBDC, you know, the same goes here. So we're happy to help.
Yeah, and established businesses, we are on a different level, even though we've been around a long time, we should know what we're doing. But, you know, you hit that plateau where growth is very difficult, and you have to contain it, and it can control you. So that's what I don't want to do.
So I think Carmen, when she talk about the challenges with what's happening in the West Loop, I think she's speaking more about the success. A lot of people in the West Loop are victims of the success of the real estate in the area and certain types of businesses.
It's a coexisting.
Yeah, so the thing is,
we were 20 years ago versus today.
And my motto has always been to live and let live, and development without displacement, so to speak. And how you keep that balance is sort of challenging because with the new businesses that are coming in that are mostly restaurants, and now you have hotels and what have you, and the industrial businesses being close to them, you know, they have a different way of operating as far as traffic and deliveries and all those kind of things. So how do we navigate that and keep that together? And that's something that we all work on together with the different organizations, with this organization and also with the Red Dog Fort Market Association.
It's a very interesting, I mean, that's why I think a lot of tourists come through my business just to see what the West Loop is all about. So I think that coexistence with what's going on now is the trick, to make it work and to make it coexist in a very positive way for everyone.
May, I wanted to pick up on some of what Carmen was saying earlier. I know that as a result of the microloans, they had a direct, immediate impact on you growing your business and employing people. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I'm overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that now the growth of my business is double from where it was 4 months ago. There were projects that had been sitting and waiting on the books. All of a sudden, it exploded and it's ready to go with notices to proceed all over the place. And now I'm at a point where there will be additional need of capital because now I can now hire more people, and especially from our Roseland Heights community, which we have a lot of people that are there that are looking for jobs. But I'm now faced with how do I get capital to take it to the next step, and that's one of the challenges I'm now having thanks to you. But
It's a high-class problem. Remember that, as I told you, remember where the challenge was before? You had no money.
nothing.
Now you got the problem of, right.
Yeah, so
It's a different set of problems.
it's a different set of problems, and so now I have to react differently to this new set of problems, and they're good problems to have. And now, hopefully, you know, with the continued success of working through the microlending program and working with Chatham Business Association, now they can help me get out of that, woe is me, I struggled, and now all of a sudden things are plentiful. Now I can bud now, I can grow. But it's still that next capital step that the banks are still not there to support that.
May, you know, I've been knowing May since
Yes.
she was a young lady. She actually used
Notice
to,
she didn't say that.
since she was a younger, I'm talking about when she was like right out of college,
Yes.
working for the city. She was an intern there, and we used to conversate with her. And I remember when she first started and decided to go out on her own. She's a single parent, go out on her own and start her own business. It was a big risk for her. But initially, when you started out, and just like you know, even though her business was not in my ward, we try to help a lot of businesses throughout the city in our community to help them get through the city. But May, initially, you had a challenge dealing with, I don't know if it was the city or the county, trying to get your certification and everything together. Or, and I know there was something going on with the city or the county or the state where you had the deals, but they wasn't, but you couldn't do something to get the contract going on.
Yeah, it was trying to navigate the system. Like, you got it, you get it, but not everybody else gets it, what we need. It was a huge challenge to be a single parent with a mortgage, with monthly utility bills, to now have to break free and not work and pursue your business full time. That was a huge challenge for me. It was a risk. Will I make it? Will I sink? Will I fail? What do I tell my kid when I can't put groceries in the refrigerator? It's a huge decision and a huge risk to make. But with the certification, there are things that you have to sacrifice. And there are things you have to also sacrifice when you're pursuing your business full time. There's ordinances in place for that. It's very hard to work around.
And a lot of those challenges that you had was before your time, Mary.
Before your time.
It was before this administration. It was before this administration.
Yeah.
But she was actually an engineer with the city, had relationships with the state and the city from being an engineer with the city. And a lot of the contractors that have worked with her in the city was looking to hire her as a subcontractor when she started her own business. But because of her status, if I'm not mistaken, as a minority, you couldn't get past that level at that time to be able to do business with them. And she lost big contracts because of that at that time.
Mary, you had some some ideas. You know, we've really been talking about the need for capital at all stages of your business, whether you're just starting out or you're growing and changing, and some of the issues that people have had with licensing and that. What are your thoughts as you're hearing?
Well, I got a couple things, and then I got a couple things I'm going to say, and then a couple things I'm going to do on a to-do list here that I wrote. Unfortunately, they're going to go from me to my staff. First of all, I want to thank Steve for hosting us, and not just hosting us, but also servicing all the business he serves. Thank all the participants. It does relate on a couple things. Usually we kind of do this kind of big versus small, and you know, and I think it's kind of, in my view, a ridiculous dichotomy, because I think Carmen's actually is a perfect example of this, in this sense that we just opened a couple days ago another Mariano's, and you know, you could call that a big business, and yet Carmen's, as a small business owner, survives on that, and just, we all got pinged now. We're all going to be working on a commission for Carmen because we got to get her into Target in no short order. So the and whoever gets it gets this 10% commission. But the dichotomy does not exist. I think that's a foolish way to think about it. Now, there are advantages that big businesses have that we have to level the playing field for small business. Now, that is true. There's a couple, and so I think that's important to note. And I do want to underscore, because if you look at all the things we've done, there are certain things we can do in financing. So I do want to say this. I have always believed in the micro-lending to the alderman. It was in our first budget. We put the $1 million up. We only had one operator. Now we have three. We're going to do another $1 million, you should know, which is unusual. Stephanie's going to step up her office 500. We're going to step up 500 in the upcoming budget. So we're going to do that because a couple examples where other people, about 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, I did an update on the micro-lending. And if financing is a key juggernaut, it is that speed bump between a dream and a nightmare.
Yep.
We're going to put it. We're going to try to put our thumb on the scale of the dream. So that's number one. So Stephanie and I, two offices. We're going to put another $1 million and expand that. Now, I have set a goal, and this gets to something I hear repeatedly. So by 2016, the Small Business Center, the one-stop, and the whole apparatus is going to go electronic, paperless. So what you wanted to do, we'll go. Now we're not going to stop there.
Okay.
That's by 2016. So the whole ability, and I know that's nice because if I hear one more horror story about people coming down and yeah, so you'll be able to do all that electronic. Now, one of the things we're also going to do in this upcoming budget is the next two departments or areas are both building permitting and zoning. We're going to structure it. Small business will be fully electronic, paperless. We're going to start them on the process that when you do something, it is in your interest to do it electronically. If you go down in person, it's going to cost different than if you go do it electronically. And you will migrate, if you're in your self-interest, you'll make that decision, but towards the electronic filing in those two processes. Exactly like you said, to ping it, so you won't have to go. We're going to set up that process. It will take us towards that effort where both building permits and zoning will be incentivized by the architect, the contractor, et cetera, to constantly go electronic versus in person. And so there will be an incentive there. And I think that's an essential thing. Now, I do want you guys to know there's a couple things. Last time I did this, we did this on kids. And somebody had a recommendation, Tori did, and we're going to do, I already told the staff we're doing it for summer. We did 20,000 kids last year for summer jobs. Mm-hmm. We're going to take it up to 22,000. One of the 20,000 was the largest in the city's history. We're going to do that again. But Tori had an idea, which is that every kid that gets a summer job has to pledge they're going to go to college. And so we are going to have all 22,000 sign a individual pledge as they go. Now here, you didn't specific. I think you said this, or I'm hearing it. I'm going to try to figure out. We do a lot of business as a city with banks. You guys have problems with banks.
Huge.
So the question this is my homework assignment, which don't worry, I'll be passing it off to somebody else. Is what because this is May when you said this.
Yes.
I think almost 2 months ago. The fact that you had two contracts. One from the city, one from the state,
now
and you
5.
still could not get a loan if it wasn't for micro-lending. you would have been in the nightmare phase, not the dreaming phase.
Yep.
And you wouldn't be in the high-class problem you had now, is how do I get more money and all this, and get my own place now. It's no longer on the kitchen table.
Yes.
So the question is, how can we as a city use our, I don't want to say relationship, we do a lot of business. A lot of business with a lot of different banks. And they do come in, as I know, and they show you their small business lending and how great they're all doing, and aren't we perfect? So the question is, what can, and I don't, this is my, I know what I'm going to do on kids and the pledge to college. We have to come up with an assignment here, and I'm looking at Stephanie, I'm looking at Walter, I'm looking at you, Tom. How do we use the city's financial leverage and its businesses to have the banks do a better job in the small business lending, whether it becomes part of the monitoring and reporting. Let's say they want to do X. They have to show us how their loan portfolio, short of economic times, et cetera, has grown. Where has it grown? I'm just thinking out of the box, because I know what I want on the kids' part. I know what we're going to do from the electronic stuff and move people. I think that's going to be a huge, I think it's going to be a huge time saver. You don't have to come down to City Hall. You don't have to pay for parking. You don't have to kind of lose your customers. You don't, as you said, I don't want to leave the contractors there while I'm down at City Hall, because who knows. And it will just be a much more efficient way to do it. So one is on the financing side, because we're limited. We got the micro lending. We're not in the business of, now if the federal government would solve its problems, SBA would be back in business. But how do we use our financial capacity to better leverage that they have to come and report what they're doing in the small business space as defined by the city. So that is kind of and then I do have the last one is we're structured in a way, I don't know if it's structured, but this is where inspections would work in a better way, where more is better than less. That if Zuli is playing by the rules, abiding the laws, and she knows full well businesses down the block are not, the incentive is to cheat, not to abide by the rules. And that does not help on the inspection side, where you got less. And so we have to, which is a little around the thinking where what we did on the restaurants, we can consolidate the inspections, which is, let's say 3 years in a row you were good housekeeping seal. You can self-certify in year X. We don't. And so our time and resources on the manpower side is focused on those who are trouble versus those who, we don't have to come see your restaurant. If you're good 3 or 4 or 5 years, you self-certify, you come in. How do we use our better resources so the cheaters, those who are not playing by the rules, cutting the costs, cutting the corners, don't get an advantage over those who do follow the rules. So I got 2 things we have to work on. I want you to all know that we're going to try to be better from an electronic, paperless format that will, in my view, not only make us more efficient, I think will pay huge dividends to you guys down the road, making you more efficient. And then Stephanie's office and the city are going to expand the micro-lending, because I think it's an incredible, successful program. So.
Well, I think that's a good place to sort of wrap it up there. As you can see, small business is really the fabric of neighborhoods. When you've got successful business corridors, small business corridors, you have successful neighborhoods where people are working and people care about what their neighborhood looks like and that it's working as well. And so I just want to commend the mayor on behalf of everyone here for all the work that he's doing. Commend the alderman and Treasurer Neely for all the work that you all do on all of our behalves to make sure that these businesses continue to grow, that entrepreneurs continue to open up locations, and that this really continues to be the city that works. So on that note, I think we can close.
I do want to say, again, as I said earlier to you guys privately, you have businesses to run, so you're doing this. Just know that you're doing it. It goes to good work, and I appreciate all your help in doing that. Again, Steve, I want to thank you, and I want to thank all you guys taking time away from what you do on a day-to-day business. With that, I'm going to take some questions. We're going to go, so everybody knows, it is Fran's birthday. Fran is a Libra, and I happened to look this up for everybody. Here is a Libra. Eager to communicate and have real conversation. Fran, you can look up while we talk to you. Fran would be the person right behind Bill, okay, and wants to get down to the nitty-gritty of things. Well, Fran, I think that describes you pretty well in my view. That's just, you really just looked up on your horoscope. You get the first question, Madam Spielman.
Well, I'd like to ask you what taxes you plan to raise. The music tax, the liquor tax, the cigarette tax, food tax, are any of those on the table for you, and if so, why?
Yeah, well, let me just say, first of all, in this upcoming budget, like the last two, we're going to have 3 years in a row a budget that is both not only balanced, but does not raise taxes on property, does not raise taxes on sales, and does not raise gas tax. So those three will not be raised as has been consistent with the last two budgets. They'll be consistent with my third budget. We are going to continue to look through the system, Fran, to make reforms and changes to bring efficiencies. And we're going to continue to look at things to make sure that we're cost efficient. I just give you an example. What I just said, as we talked about, we're going to incentivize people in the building permitting area and in the zoning to go electronic, which means in person, given there's a number of fees in that area, where it's going to change if you come in person, it's going to be a different cost structure. So you can look at different areas. Okay?
What about the other taxes?
No, we're going through the budget. We're not done yet, but again, I want to repeat, no increase on property taxes, no increase on sales tax, no increase on gas tax, and that will be 3 years in a row, like I said we were going to do. Bill?
Mr. Mayor, the Ileana Expressway, what is your position?
Well, first of all, the governor and I share mutual interest in investing in our infrastructure. Steve has noted how important that is. The city of Chicago is what I always refer to as the inland port of America. So you've got to be investing in your airport. You've got to be investing in your rail. You've got to be investing in your roads, making them more efficient. He has been, we're 2 weeks away from opening the Red Line South reconstruction and the modernization. That was helpful with the state. But I don't see Ileana is in the self-interest of the city of Chicago. Jay? Because from a competitive standpoint. Jay?
Mr. Mayor, the state yesterday, state's prison people yesterday said that it would cost $1 billion if we put in effect those mandatory minimum for gun crime. You have consistently said that that would result in fewer gun crimes, fewer gun confiscations, and lower jail population. How can both be right? Someone's got to be wrong.
Well,
you can't lower the jail population and increase the cost.
Jay, I know you read, so you have to read the whole story. University of Chicago Crime Lab, one of the most respected in the country, showed that it's lowering costs from the perspective. There's a huge social and economic cost from repeat offenders coming back on the street repeating crimes. It affects businesses that are sitting right around here if there's crime in their small business, in their communities where they operate. So you can't look at it one side. You have to look, okay, so if you step back, take a wide lens view, a huge loss on business and commerce in our small businesses where there is repeat offenders doing repeat crimes.
But they said specifically that there would be an increase in the prison population.
There would be, and as I noted before when we talked this subject, one is the University of Chicago Crime Lab report has a different perspective, the social and economic impact on the businesses and families and communities. Second, as you know, we have lowered some crimes, i.e. marijuana possession. Third, if you look at New York, which has seen actually a lower prison population New York City, when they did exactly this, it's because you focused on the hardened repeat criminals. That's where the concentration of resources should be. And so when you say it's not a conflict or a contrast, I think the Crime Lab report by the University of Chicago is quite telling of the cost on the victims and the communities and the neighborhoods where these repeat offenders constantly repeat crimes. And I think if you commit a gun crime and a gun violent crime, you should serve 3-year sentence. So it acts as a deterrent, and then people are trying to build up Chatham, build up Roseland, not counting so they all can look and aspire, as Tom noted, to where Belmont and Lakeview was 20 years ago versus today, where they aspire to that and to be that. Not allowing these repeat offenders back on the street, it's wrong.
It's local terrorism.
Well, you just heard from Zuli. Marianne?
There's some questions about whether the city workers who are on safe passage are therefore then not doing their city job and causing some problems there. Building inspectors, for one, are not getting out and doing the inspections that they are needed. Some complaints in some wards of rat calls that are not being taken care of because of their own safety.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was on a safe passage route today at Johnson School. A couple weeks ago, I was at Det School, and I saw all our safe passage workers. I see all our volunteers that are out there, the police officers that are out there, and we're continuing to meet our obligation as a city. The particular to Marianne, as I will say to rodents, we have a challenge because of climate change, what has been a norm in the city. But we are continuing to meet our obligations of basic neighborhood services, tree trimming, rodent control, inspections in that effort, and we will not allow our obligations. Now, we have an obligation to children, and we're going to keep them safe, and that's why we put an extended and expanded safe passages, and we're going to continue to do that, and nothing is impeded. Nobody on those efforts are doing any overtime or anything away from their main functions.
Mayor, can you explain why you're deciding to push ahead with the phase-out of retirement health care, even while this is still playing out?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, as you know, I have spent my entire adult life, and you can even argue some of my childhood, given my dad was a pediatrician, but definitely working for President Clinton, President Obama as a congressman, expanding access to quality health care. Helped negotiate for President Clinton the creation of kids' health care, and I think it was the second bill that President Obama signed, which was the expansion of kid care to 10 million children whose parents work full-time and don't get health care. And as a congressman, I worked on expansion of allowing seniors to get access to affordable prescription drugs. And I have made sure, even with when I became mayor, with our wellness plan, that we were going to make sure that we had a quality health care. So I've spent my whole adult life on this. Second is, and I think it's important, is to continue to improve access to health care. And I would just say one side note, we're here talking about small businesses. If we had done this 10 years ago or 5 years ago, main concern for small business, access to health care. That was the main concern, not being able to provide their employees with health care. 60% of the small businesses provide no health care. The Affordable Act under President Obama actually starts to address that concern, both through the exchanges and the tax credit. So I've worked on this extensively. In addition, we are going to provide, because it's the right thing to do, 3 years' time to people to make transition. Anybody who is on Medicare is going to continue to get Medicare. This year, there will be no change on deductibles, co-pays, and that's essential. But we're going to provide the 3 years of transition because what costs the taxpayers today $110 million is, in short order time, going to become $500 million. It's a $10 billion unfunded liability, and I don't think the taxpayers can afford that. So what I did, as I told everybody we were going to deal with the hard truths and not run away from them, is I put a group together of experts who studied this for about 6 to 7 months, came back with a set of recommendations. Some of those recommendations I'm putting forward that we're going to do. Your most vulnerable, about 5,000 seniors, oldest, who can't make any changes, about a fifth of the population, there'll be no changes. We used to have assistance to up to 200% of poverty. We're going to go to 250% of poverty. But we are going to make changes over a 3-year period of time as the healthcare landscape is also changing, and make sure that the taxpayers who are paying $100 million in subsidies, which would balloon to $500 in short order, are not left with an unfunded capacity that is close to about $10 billion, and analyze it there.
What's the difference in cost going to be between e-filing and in person for the zoning stuff?
Well, John, they're sharpening their pencils now, but basically it will be in a business that is going either to permitting or zoning, and they got to go through that process. It will be in your financial self-interest to follow through and go electronic, short of the cost on time, which everybody here just talked about, coming downtown, etc. It will be in your financial self-interest to go electronic and not go in person. If you do in person, zoning is one example, has a series of different fees all associated. It will just have a kind of a premium for face-to-face, But we're going to encourage you from a financial, and those numbers, I don't want to be specific today, because they're sharpening those numbers right now.
So
But
you're worried that you're putting a burden on people who maybe don't have as much access to be able to do it electronically, to make them charge?
no, I think, well, first of all, more and more of the world's going electronic. So we're actually getting the city government modernized. But staying in the old days, I mean, you just heard it from Zuli, in the sense of, and I don't want to speak for everybody else, but it's much more efficient to do it electronically. It saves them time. They don't have to leave the store or an operation, and it will be an incentive. And so small business center, 25% of all people right now going through the small business one-stop shop, 25% do it in 15 minutes or less through a kiosk. Our innovations today, I think it was about 4 weeks ago, we held a conference with about 20 different cities who all came to study what we're doing to make small business and make city government more favorable, because we're on the cutting edge. Going electronic, all paperless, is one step. Doing the permitting and zoning process, which is amazing in and of itself, we're going to make electronic in your self-interest, because it's in our self-interest as well.
Mayor, you talked about the BRT on Ashland. There's been a lot of controversy about that. Do you support it, and what about the citizens?
Well, before we do it, we're going to do exactly the right thing to do, which is talk to families and businesses there. The first step, even before you get there, we did a trial run in Jeffries. Now we're looking at the rapid transit as it relates to downtown before we even get to Ashland. This is a discussion phase, but we have to expand and continue to modernize our infrastructure so people can get from home to work efficiently, from work back to home or to another neighborhood. And it's something we're going to look at, but we're going to look at it and study and consult with all the affected communities and neighborhoods, so their input is listened to. But prior to even getting to Ashland, it's downtown, it's the central business area where we have traffic jams we need to deal with, and that's why we're going to look at it. Thank you. No, we haven't. This is the consulting part. We're nowhere close to making a decision, so that's what consulting's about. Thank you.